Welcome to the Mile High Hoops podcast here in Denver, Colorado, where last night we saw Nikola Jokic return to the floor for the Denver Nuggets and drop a 39-point triple-double. It was awesome to see. We'll get to that in a second, and it relates to the main topic of this podcast, which is the Nuggets' big issue, them trying to fix it, and it not going well so far. If you like this content, remember to like and subscribe to all of our content on YouTube here at Denver Sports. We've got you covered on all things in the Mile High City. So the Nuggets this season are really struggling defensively. We've talked about this a bunch on the podcast. They are allowing the 25th out of 30 in terms of like defense, in terms of points allowed per game. If you look at the defensive rating, they're 22nd in the NBA. They haven't been good as of lately. It's not like purely just a Jokic problem. In fact, the Nuggets defense statistically is actually better with Jokic. A lot of people think he's a bad defender, but he does so many different things for this Nuggets team, whether it finish a possession, like getting a rebound, or, he's one of the NBA league leaders in steals. He truly does so many different things for this team. So, if you're thinking, okay, well, over this last stretch, the Nuggets should have been a little bit better on defense, I'm actually with you. I thought the Nuggets could have improved or shown some kind of defensive fortitude without Jokic in the lineup. But what last night with Jokic coming back meant was that we finally got to see the starters back together. It was the 21st time that starting group has actually started together. The Nuggets are 12-9 in those games in which Brown, Gordon, Jokic, Murray, and Porter start. That's actually now their most used starting lineup. Before last night, it was tied with basically swapping out Gordon for Westbrook because Gordon's been hurt so much. And we didn't really see it to its full potential last night because AG got into some foul trouble. But that's one of the things I think that's really held the Nuggets back defensively this season. And the reason I say that is because of something Jamal Murray said on Monday, and he brought up again last night, and I asked him follow-ups, and I'll get to that in a second. So Jamal, after Monday's loss to Chicago, says the team has a communication issue. We don't communicate well enough on defense, and we particularly don't do anything well on defense. That's kind of where Jamal Murray was. So last night I asked him, is the communication issue stemming from the fact that you guys have not really played together this season? You haven't all been in the same room. And both Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, not even to that question, answered that question in different times last night after the game, saying, essentially, we have played so much basketball together that we know when each other is on the floor and what our strengths are, what should be done. It shouldn't be a communication issue. It's not a communication issue. And then Jamal took it further and said, the guys who come in, this isn't even like an injury problem. Like if he didn't call out Peyton Watson or anyone in particular, but he basically says if Peyton Watson is coming in for Eric Gordon, or, if Russell Westbrook is coming in for Christian Brown, everyone should know what they should be doing on the floor. Clearly, they're not. Clearly, this isn't an execution thing. And both Jamal and Nikola think that the Nuggets can get to another level on defense, but Nikola has admitted that he doesn't know if the Nuggets have a switch to flip. He doesn't really believe in that. So the Nuggets might just legitimately be one of the bottom third defenses in the NBA, where, 74 games into the season, so that's not surprising, or 72, whatever it might be, 74. So whatever we've seen is probably the truth, right? In the same sense, there are some statistics that show the Nuggets get better in crunch time in the fourth quarters. Their first half defense is just miserable, but they can turn it up at times. And in last night's game, you even saw it, them limiting the Bucks to like 24, I think, points in the fourth quarter. It was a good number. It doesn't matter the exact number. So to me, there's some sort of issue here. And it's one I'm going to dive into later today on denversports.com. I'm going to do a little bit more study on this issue, get some hard figures. But my general idea here is there's something either in the personnel, which we know is an issue, that can't not execute the concepts, or the concepts themselves are flawed. There's also a third bucket here, which is just the message is being lost on the players, which I do think there is some reason to believe that Michael Malone's message has not necessarily resonated as much this year with the team. But I also do think that just the talent on the roster is a little bit worse than what it was last year or 2 years ago. So there's a lot of reasons that maybe are factoring in to the Nuggets struggling on defense. It's not such a cut and dry issue. If it was, we would know how to fix it, right? So Jamal Murray thinks it's just communication. To me, the reason why they can't fix it is it's not just communication holding the Nuggets back on defense. There is more to the Nuggets' defensive issues. It's the fact that they don't have a great perimeter defender. It's the fact that Aaron Gordon has missed a lot of time. Just inherently, there's going to be a drop in communication when Aaron Gordon is not on the floor, because Peyton Watson's a different player. You have different expectations of how Peyton Watson defends than Aaron Gordon, even if they were both in a vacuum as effective as each other, which they're not. That's what I think is wrong with the Nuggets. I think it's a multi-layered issue on defense that has been hinted at by a couple players, and there are solves for it. They could probably get a little bit better. They can put more effort towards it. I agree with some fans that have thought that, especially when you see it in the fourth quarter of games, but then in the first half, it looks like they just aren't even trying. But it's hard to consistently play to that level when you do not have the talent in-house to do that. All right, back to them having everyone healthy. So they get everyone healthy again last night. Nikola Jokic comes out, throws one of the sickest passes I've ever seen in my life with that spin, half spin, throws it over his shoulder the other direction to that AG dunk. And the part that got lost on that is he actually no-looked that pass and was looking off Brook Lopez to MPJ, who was on the wing. So that was pretty sick. Loved that. Jokic comes back and you see his touch and you see his domination of the glass. They don't win that game last night without Jokic, and that's even without the Bucks having Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard. It's just his value, right? We talked about it Tuesday with Anilo a little bit, where it's just like you see the drop off in this team without Nikola. Jamal was kind of more of a passenger for most of the game last night. And, I don't mean this in the negative connotation of Jared Bednar. He didn't have to be the driver because Michael Porter Jr. had such a great first half. And to me, in some ways, there's statistics that show Michael Porter Jr. is the least dependent Nikola Jokic player because of his skill set and, his net rating and stuff like that. But if you think logically in terms of a guy who isn't great at shot creation and just feasts on open shots, in some ways, Michael Porter Jr. is the most dependent on Nikola Jokic. And you see it instantly go 6 of 6 in the first half, 5 of 5 from 3, just gets as hot as a candle and lights up for the Nuggets. Thought that was awesome to see. Of course, Michael Porter Jr., I said to the guy sitting next to me, like, I bet you he only gets like one shot in the second half. Only takes 2 shots in the second half until very late in the game when he comes through and hits the dagger 3. That was good to see. The Nuggets still have confidence in him. All the while in that fourth quarter, Jamal Murray becomes the driver of the offense and takes over the game a little bit. People will say he was inconsistent. I don't think that was the case. I think Jamal Murray was just letting his teammates be his teammates and being a good teammate. I thought Jamal Murray was fine last night, even though the scoring wasn't as boisterous as it was the last 2 games. And then on Porter, just as a whole, 10 rebounds as well. Hits the 5 threes, gets 4 steals or 3 steals, whatever they officially counted it at. He was a factor on both ends of the floor last night, and he was a very important Nugget. It was the type of game that you see from Porter that makes you go, there is an all-around player here that is more than just shooting, that does so many things for the Nuggets. I would like to see him even more active, whether that's a Mike thing or whether that's the team giving him more activity. Nikola just absolutely roasting the Bucks. It was fun to see, like I said, Brook Lopez. I love Brook Lopez, but there was times in that game where it looked like Brook Lopez wanted to retire. He was just sick of what Nikola Jokic was doing. A couple of those spin moves, and Brook didn't even fight back to contest at the rim. He just gave up as soon as Jokic made his move on the block. They tried a couple different things on Jokic. Doc Rivers doesn't know how to stop Nikola Jokic. Neither does their assistant coach, Darvin Ham. So that was fun to watch because those two guys have been absolutely tortured by Nikola Jokic over the course of some playoff series. And, Christian Brown, I thought, sparked the entire comeback for the Nuggets. He had a big steal, fast break, gets out in transition. And, I would like to see Christian even more focused on defense, something I talked about Tuesday, but even more focused on defense. He was valuable for the Nuggets in a multitude of ways last night. And I think Peyton Watson is popping and showing some positive signs here. So overall, it's going to look like a rough and ugly Nuggets game. And I think a lot of people aren't going to buy into it and buy stock in the Nuggets after that game, because it's like you only beat the Milwaukee Bucks by 10 after, they didn't have Giannis or Dame. But when your star player comes back after missing 5 games, it's sometimes hard to recenter your offense around him. And sometimes the players around him take a breath. I don't think any of that happened last night. And I thought this game could have gone wayward a couple times. The Bucks took a 5-point lead late in the third quarter. I think it's impressive the Nuggets didn't blow this game. And I know that's such a low bar to clear, but in the same regard, they've blown so many games like this at home this year. So for the Nuggets to hang on and prove something, I thought was impressive in some ways. And I didn't expect them to be the best versions of themselves last night. I expect them to be the best versions of themselves come next Tuesday when they face the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anyway, Jake Shapiro, that's all I got here on the Mile High Hoops podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you next Tuesday, previewing the Minnesota Timberwolves coming into town. Are we scared? Ooh. Let's talk about it on Tuesday.